This is Spo-Ad Cast. Spo-Ad Cast is the official podcast of the St. Thomas University Sports Administration Program.
We are your inside look into the sports industry.
Want to get a job in sports?
Yeah.
Listen to Spo-Ad Cast.
And welcome back to the Spo-Ad Cast. I'm your host, Trevor Graham, joined alongside right now by Phil DeMontmollin, the Sports Information Director here at St. Thomas University. Phil, it's been a while. How you been?
Yeah, great to be back with the show. Great to see that the Spo-Ad Cast has been a huge success in its first couple months of existence, even getting some outside press.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
We had the paparazzi in the studio today. It's a nice experience. Phil, what's going on with any alumni updates? We had a big FCS weekend.
Yeah, college football kicked off last weekend. It was a big weekend. I don't know if I've ever told the audience this, but I have a freelance career outside of St. Thomas where I work for ESPN on college football games. And I was sent to Austin, Texas, where I worked for the Longhorn Network this weekend. It was a blowout. Texas beating New Mexico State. But, college football is a huge love of mine, dating back to when I worked at the UM and continuing on today, and couldn't help but notice with all these upsets this weekend, 8 FCS teams beat FBS teams. Mm-hmm. And we looked a little closer, and what do you know, 2 St. Thomas Sports Administration alumni are right in the middle of this deal. North Dakota State upsets Kansas State on Friday night, and in just an outstanding game, North Dakota State is a FCS national champion themselves and earned that victory. It wasn't like Kansas State, coughed it up to them. And Gene Taylor, who was a St. Thomas University sports administration student back in the 80s, he received his master's degree in 1985 from St. Thomas. He's the athletic director at North Dakota State. So congratulations to Gene. And Bill Chavez is the athletic director at Eastern Washington University. They upset a ranked team in Oregon State.
They got a nice payout from that,
and so Chavez graduated with a sports administration degree back in the late 80s, and so just great stuff. We're all over the place, as you guys know, but love spreading the word of those alumni success stories.
Just more and more. Yeah, it's great to hear. All over, especially smaller schools like that, to know that St. Thomas has spread its wings and we're everywhere. I wanted to take a little bit of time here and kind of take a step back and paint a broader picture about really what we're doing here at St. Thomas as far as our experience. Now, you've been here, as a student and now working in the sports as an sports information director in the athletic department. You've seen the change. I wanted you to kind of share a little bit of background of kind of where the program was, where it is now, what the athletic department means to the sports administration program.
Sure. Myself and Laura Courtley-Todd, the director of athletics at St. Thomas University today, we were both students 1994, 1995, 1996. And when we were taking classes then, we didn't even know there was much going on here in terms of sports. St. Thomas University sponsored sports. Our singular focus was get experience and get a job with the Heat, the Panthers, the Marlins, the Dolphins, or one of the big events in town. And the classes, which they are today, were at night. And
which is beautiful.
Yeah, which is beautiful. And they're at night by design because they allow the student to get the internship and the experiential opportunity around town to set them up for the job. Now, since I've come on board and in the years prior to me, things have evolved greatly, where we're now trying to use the athletic department here at St. Thomas as a laboratory for the current sports administration students. Hey, to complement your experience out there in the Miami market, get some hands-on experience here with the athletic department. You can, really get deep experience working with a small athletic program like ours, going much deeper as far as the quality and the depth of the experience. And you can walk out of here with some real practical experience to go along with, the resume that you've got with all the events and teams around town. So it's a nice thing that we've implemented here. We've got full-time GA spots, that we offer to sports administration students. And it's been a real pleasure trying to integrate the two programs. And kind of the third, part of it all is where we are right now, this studio and, the work that the School of Communications does, and can we get the media side too? So sports administration, the School of Communications, and the athletic department, which all happen to be housed in the Fernandez Family Center here on the St. Thomas campus, integrating those can just make for a more worthwhile experience for the student, and in the long run, I think set up the students for, job opportunities down the road.
Yeah, I have a handful of classmates who are involved in various aspects here. With the women's basketball team, the men's basketball team, the facility management, the athletic department in general, really everything. And there's quite a bit of them, and they really are getting great hands-on experience, which is key.
Yeah,
and it's definitely key because now not only do you need the degree, but you need the experience.
Yep, and we've talked about the alumni base a bunch. We've got connections all over the place, but you need to get the experience by the time you leave St. Thomas to really position yourself for that job. And finally, I wanted to ask you, you had a great guest speaker at Dr. Bell's class last night in Ron Culp, who's the legendary, in fact, he has a banner on the top of the American Airlines Arena rafters, celebrating his career with the Miami Heat, the original athletic trainer with the Heat. He's just one of many amazing guest speakers that St. Thomas University students get to experience. What did Mr. Culp have to say last night?
Oh, it was great. It was basically, he just opens up the forum for Q&A. The class last night that came and spoken was financial management, where we're learning a lot about budgeting and things of that nature. Well, he also was a travel coordinator for the Heat for many years, so he knows a lot about the budget. He was able to speak a lot about that, but it was really a Q&A session, and it was a blessing to sit in the same room as him. That guy truly is a legend. He's got 15 championship rings. He let me play with his 2012 Heat championship ring. He's got a Hall of Fame ring. A legend. But it was just, he's one of, a handful, not to demean what he meant to our class, because he was a great person to come in and listen to, but really he's one of many. I can't tell you how many guest speakers I've sat through in my 6-7 months here. It really is incredible. St. Thomas is a premier sports administration program, and it, like you were saying, everything is kind of fused together here in the Fernandez Center. We can really get us prepared for that next step.
And not only is it a premier program from the academic side, but the fact that it's located in Miami allows for guest speakers like Ron Culp and many others, and those experiences, around town. But thanks for having me on.
Great.
It's been a lot of fun catching back up.
Absolutely. It's good seeing you. We'll talk soon.
Want to get a job in sports?
Yeah.
Listen to Spo-Ad Cast.
Welcome back to the Spo-Ad Cast. I'm your host, Trevor Graham, joined alongside, as always now, by Mr. Jason Fowler.
How are we doing today?
We're doing good. How are you?
Good. Just had to go deal with the paparazzi today.
What the heck?
What
is that?
I don't know. I guess I'm famous now on campus. So
please just give me a heads up.
People were
next
taking
time.
pictures.
Shoot me a text.
I didn't really know. It just kind of happened. So you kind of have to roll with these things once you become famous. It's things you'll learn here when you
have
come
we
to
reached
St.
that
Thomas.
level already?
I had no idea, but apparently so.
We're doing something right.
They wanted to take our pictures, so who would know? It's been a busy day.
Well, the semester's in a full swing.
Full swing.
We had class the other night.
Yep.
And one big topic we talked about is the NFL settlement.
NFL, yeah. It's a big
concussion
one.
settlement.
Yeah. Surprising, though, I would say.
Yeah, I was blown away by it.
Yeah.
So I guess my biggest thing was, one, I was blown away how they started off, we want $2 billion.
Right.
Okay, we'll settle for $765 million.
Yeah, it's an interesting number, Joe.
That's a gap.
Yeah.
Aside from that, my biggest issue with this whole settlement was the fact that they only allocated $85 million to research, development,
Sure.
Education, stuff
Right.
like that, which, don't get me wrong, $85 million is a lot of money. However, when you're dealing with technology and all this stuff, that $85 million, that's going to get dried up pretty quick.
I would imagine it would, yeah.
That was my biggest issue. I know
It seems strange. I don't know. The $85 million, it's a lot of money. I mean, the NFL recently did a deal with NIH where they gave $30 million for concussion research. So there's money that's being moved in separate places towards that type of research. But this is I guess player specific, and especially for retired players. So, I mean, it's a good jump. I think it's a good starting point. But the problem I think with the settlement is now this is going to be used as pseudo precedent. I mean, it's not really precedent because they didn't go to court, but this is what they're going to use as a basis for further lawsuits or for any type of issue that we have injury-wise.
Well, right, because
they're going to use this as a platform to work
10,
with.
15 years from now, isn't there going to be just another batch of players who weren't involved in this lawsuit that are having the same effects?
Right.
They're going to file the exact same lawsuit.
Well,
Isn't that going to happen? We're going to keep doing this every 15, 20 years?
I think now that the NFL, I feel like the NFL just did the smartest move probably in their history. They
wash your hands.
They basically said they had the lawsuit. They said, okay, it's going to be $2 billion and all this, and then the legal fees and all the things attached to it. But when it came down to it, they said, no, we're going to settle this, and we're never going to deal with this again. The reason we're never going to deal with this again is because every player that's in the league is now on notice.
Right.
They know right now. If you didn't know before, if you want to cry wolf and say, okay, we had no idea that concussions were as prevalent as they are, today you know. You know that this is a problem. You know that this is an actual potential risk for playing this game, and now you're on notice. So you can't sue us now. Even if you want to, go for it. But we're not going to settle the next one. We'll take it. We'll take it to the distance because now you're on notice. There's no breach of duty, or there's no negligence involved here. We're specifically you've been warned. You know this is dangerous. If you're doing this, it's on your own accord. Have a nice day. They're done. It was genius. It was absolutely genius.
And from a PR standpoint, it was huge too because the NFL was really struggling.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think they really want to. They really tried to lock up all of these lawsuits all at once. I mean, you had the collective bargaining agreement. Now we got that secured. 10 years of labor peace. We got the ref agreement done. Also, labor peace is done. And then you got this lawsuit thing. That's cleared up. So the NFL is like, man, they're walking around like it's Monday morning. Like they got their coffee, the paper. They're just like, they got rainbows walking around wherever they go because they're happy today. I mean,
right. Well, their smallest TV revenue, the TV deal with NBC is worth like $790 million.
Yeah.
I think it's over 9 years.
Yeah. So that's nothing.
That covers their settlement costs.
Definitely.
Their smallest chunk of their TV deals. And
absolutely.
So, the NFL got off right. But you just mentioned to me a few minutes right before we got on that another lawsuit has already come out.
Yep, already filed. They had 4 players. I can't remember the names offhand, but had 4 players in New Orleans that filed another concussion lawsuit.
But what are they going to do with this?
I feel like the only thing they could do is somehow incorporate them into the settlement. Like they're gonna say, we literally just handled this case. I guess it would depend. If these players are adamant about not settling, then it could actually go to court. And it is technically separate because they weren't included. So they could go to court and go the distance, but the amount of money that they would pull even in a successful claim is not likely to be that much because there's only 4 of them, And they're probably going to use that settlement as somewhat of a balance, as well. So
if these are ex-players that chose not to be involved in this current suit,
right.
Are they able to use this precedent that's been set to be like, oh, kind of my bad for not being a part of this lawsuit.
Right.
Let me be a part of this new one with this other group.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something they're going to have to – it's definitely going to be a question the judge is going to ask when they bring this case. Well, we just handled this. Like, why weren't you a part of it? And, there's a lot of different reasons. They could say that they weren't prepared for it. They were still collecting medical records or something along those lines, that they were not prepared to be in the lawsuit. Or they can say that the representatives of the class action suit did not represent them specifically.
Okay.
And that's possible. They could definitely make that argument because, everyone's injuries are different and things like that. But the suit for the NFL, I think, was genius. I mean, they basically locked down every person. There was 4,500 players involved, and they did it for $170-something thousand for each person.
Right.
That's nothing. I mean, that's peanuts for the NFL. I mean,
but so say my kid eventually, and if he has my genes, this will never happen. But say he grows up to play in the NFL,
right?
Is he basically banned? Like there is no chance that he'll ever be able to sue the NFL as part of a cognitive disorder.
You can always sue. That's not a question. You can always bring the lawsuit. The question is, are you going to be able to win the lawsuit?
Will it be frivolous for him to bring it?
I don't know if it will be frivolous. If there's new things that are coming out at that time, you never really know. I mean, there's if you can make a legal argument that makes sense and is not malicious or just frivolous completely, then yeah, like I think you could make an argument, but I think it's going to be even harder for them to do that per the settlement, and that's why I think the settlement is so significant.
Do you think because we're still in that age where technology, we're really, we're advancing, we're getting really innovative with technology. Do you think that, say in 3-4 years they come out this new, medical procedure that's able to detect stuff even earlier,
right? Which they're working on.
Does that then open a door for other lawsuits to be like, well, hey, we didn't know at this point? I mean, I was just reading. Right. There's a little Forbes article. Forbes has been covering this really well, and the latest article they did an update. They were saying that really, people knew of the short-term injuries before 1990, but it was really there in the 1990s when our medical research got to the point where we were able to detect, there's serious long-term effects.
And that's where the lawsuit really stems around. It's not, did we know that there was anything damaging, period. It's, did you know something and not say anything? Right. Did you not disclose the information? That's the crux of the lawsuit. It's obvious. If you wear a helmet and run into another guy running at full speed,
and these aren't
it can't be
regular
good.
Dudes. These are 6'7", 300 pounds. They run 4 240s.
Exactly.
They're not human.
They're superhumans that run at full speed into one another, collide, helmet to helmet. That can't be good. Everyone kind of understands that doesn't make sense. But
savages.
But at the same time, that's really not the issue. The issue is, did the league know something that they didn't tell players? And then on top of that, do they have a legal responsibility to tell the players, even if they do know something? But that's nothing that never got settled because we actually settled the case. So we'll never really know whether they have a duty, they have a responsibility, or whether they need to disclose it to players. We don't know that. So
but
we're never really going to know.
Now everyone's been put on notice. So
now everyone's
really,
put on notice.
Does it really matter?
Now everyone's put on notice. So it kind of, like I said, it's the best scenario possible for the NFL. Plus, they got 30 years to pay it off. So. I mean, let's amortize that over 30 years. Like, come on, that's peanuts. So it's interesting. But I actually wanted to bring back an old topic that we talked about a while ago, actually. It was probably one of our earlier shows about the National Women's Soccer League, the new league that we were talking about.
Yep.
Wanted to give my congratulations to the Portland team, the Thorns. They were the team with the largest attendance in the country, and they actually won their championship. I guess it's the second championship now.
Well, good for them.
So they finally got a big W, and they finally got a championship. So, and it was actually pretty crazy because I saw the game on TV.
Yeah, you watched it.
I watched some. Don't give me that much credit. Like I watched some of it. I turned it on. And I was like, oh, interesting. This is what we were talking about. And then I was like, hey, but there's a college football game on. So I did switch a channel, but. It was still cool. I mean, it was on TV, so I mean,
that's big.
It seems like they're making some moves, and they're definitely getting their brand done, in a way that's gonna keep them sustainable, which is good. I mean, they needed a women's soccer league that was gonna work.
A lot of growth too, in both men and women's, probably more women's.
Yeah, but women's soccer has always been big. It's always been one of the best sports for women in the U.S. You had the World Cups that they've won, Mia Hamm, that group. I mean, the '99 team. So that tradition has been there. But it's cool that they actually have a league now that looks like it's not going to die overnight. So
like the other professional women's leagues,
exactly,
have somehow still in existence.
Exactly.
Well, I really hate to talk about.
You're going to talk
about
Johnny. I know you're going to.
I just feel like we have to. Like. What is going on with this kid?
Yeah.
Texas
A&M. Yeah.
Kid is a good word.
No, he's a child. He's a man-child. He's a good football man-child, but he's still a child.
I know I texted you last Saturday during the games. I had to watch the second half of the Rice A&M game, and it was almost immediately. I was just infuriated watching this kid throwing 8-yard passes where a receiver then runs 25 yards and scores. And he's lipping off to the DBs like he just did something incredible.
Sure.
I could have made that pass.
Right.
You could have made that pass.
Sure.
You can just tell.
Yep.
You can just tell watching his body language, everything. He has spent the summer hanging out in the clubs with LeBron and sitting courtside, and he's lived that life, and he shows it.
Yeah. No, there's nothing humble about Johnny Manziel.
My question is, what is going to happen to this kid?
I mean... If I was in the league, if I was in college football right now and I was facing an opponent like Johnny Manziel, I'm hurting him at any cost.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care if I'm breaking rules. I don't care what the punishment will be.
He has to be put in his place.
I'm breaking knees. I'm throwing elbows late. I'm raking in with my cleats when I get off the ground. I may even pull the Ndamukong Suh step and twist move. I'm hurting the kid just to make an example out of him that you need to be a little more humble and stop thinking that you are God's gift to
Well,
Earth,
it's kind of,
because you're not.
I got to imagine it's hard for Johnny, given, one, his background, the way he grew up, very privileged family.
Sure.
But now with this joke of a half-game suspension that the NCAA gives him, the NCAA essentially said, you're our golden boy. We're not going to suspend you.
Yeah.
Half a game? Are you kidding?
That's its own issue. I mean, and I don't even understand it. I mean,
there cannot be.
There's
no logical explanation. We've talked this through quite a bit.
There's none. I mean, you're saying at one point that he's done something wrong, but you don't want to punish him for it, or that he hasn't done anything wrong, but you're trying to make an example out of it. That if he did the behavior, that this is something that we can't allow, which to me makes no sense. Like, he either did it or he didn't do it, hands down, period. If you're not going to take the time to investigate and not waste our time with a half-game suspension, what are we doing? Like, what is the purpose of this? I mean, Reggie Bush lost his Heisman, he got a bowl ban for a team he wasn't on for 5 years. They lost scholarships. They were literally standing outside naked with the USC flag around their waist, And
that's all they had.
Yeah. I mean, and then Penn State had that terrible situation, with the children and things like that. That's not even football related. I mean, that's a separate issue, but we have a non-football issue that gave them a 5-year ban and fines and all this crap. I mean, how does Johnny Manziel walk away free with nothing? I mean, it makes no sense.
And the fact that a group of competent individuals got together in a room and decided on this quote-unquote punishment.
Right.
And they all walked out of that room agreeing,
happy with that decision.
Half games works. Like, nobody raised their hand and was like, well, why not a full game?
And then the legal profession, they have this thing called the smell test or the laugh test. And it's, does this smell terrible, And two, can you not laugh and say this seriously? And I don't believe that those NCAA officials coming out of that room and said, yes, today is going to be the punishment, and we're going to say it's going to be a half game. There's no way that dude behind him couldn't laugh. I'm telling you, I would have been dying had I been standing there.
Johnny had to have laughed.
No effing sense. Like, 0 sense. Like, it makes 0 sense. Like, how difficult would it have been to be like, you know what, make it a game. Like,
right.
Let's
against Rice.
It's right. Just a game, whatever. Like, how hard is that? I don't understand.
Why not 3 games? AJ Green was suspended for it's like 4 games for his own jersey incident back a few years ago.
And then those Ohio State players, all that nonsense.
But why did they not suspend Johnny for 3-4 games? Why? Because they play Sam Houston State this week, which I've been reading isn't
Alabama
projected
coming up too?
Alabama's the following week.
Exactly.
And there is no chance that the NCAA will allow Johnny Manziel to be ineligible for that marquee game, maybe the game of the year against Alabama.
And that also begs the question: if this scenario happened at the end of his career, do we have a different result? Do we say, give the Heisman back? Yeah. We're banning Texas A&M. All this is going out the window. Would we have a different result? I think we would.
I think we would too.
I think it would change it. And
absolutely.
For the NCAA to do that, I understand where they're coming from, marketing and advertising, TV rights, things like that. I understand those concerns, but aren't we supposed to be the moral compass of college football? I mean, isn't that not the purpose of the NCAA? I mean, aren't we supposed to deal with amateurism and professionalism and ethics and fair play? I mean, isn't that the premise that we have been under with the NCAA?
Well,
according to their chapter, right?
According to them.
To me, it's just pathetic that the NCAA doesn't even play by their own rules. I mean, that is evident in not just this scenario, but the Miami debacle and numerous other occasions where they have been.
Right, how quick were they able to come up with this ruling for Johnny Manziel?
Sure.
It's been how many weeks, months now that they're still working on the University of Miami?
Yeah.
I mean,
come on. It's pathetic.
There's no consistency across the board for the NCAA when it comes to this.
Nor accountability. I mean,
Right.
There's just
who are these members that decided this?
Exactly.
Can we at least get names?
Yeah.
Can we at least get these 8, 10, however many people met in the room, and it was these guys that came up with the decision?
It just seems like a very ridiculous decision, and I mean, I would rather just have them not suspend him at all,
right,
than just do this half game, because the half game just says we just did a half-ass job on it. Like, we didn't really try. We think he did something wrong, but we really don't know. So, and we're not even going to waste money to investigate it. It's basically kind of what I'm getting from it, which is pathetic. I just don't. It's pathetic for college football. It's pathetic for the other guys who have been banned or have had their teams punished severely since they've left.
Fueling Manziel's fire to walk around the field like he's God's gift of football.
Sure.
I mean, he seriously acts like nobody can tell him anything on that field.
Yeah.
You mentioned the way that he just pretty much laughed at his coach when his coach was chewing him out after the unsportsmanlike penalty. Like, who does that? A sophomore.
Oh, my gosh.
A sophomore.
If I were that coach, and I probably would have been fired for this move, but I would have grabbed that kid's face mask and ripped him over in front of me and screamed at him on TV.
Well, you remember when Vernon Davis got kicked out of the game and 49ers, when he got sent to the locker room
Where is Singletary to pull his pants down and yell at this kid?
That's what I'm saying. That's what needs to happen to Johnny. Something embarrassing.
We need to get Mike Singletary down to Texas A&M and have him take his pants off in the locker room and say, we need to get your stuff together. Cannot win with them. Cannot play with them. That's what we need.
We're not going to need Singletary to do that, because those boys at Alabama are not going to stand for Mr. Manziel running his mouth.
This is true.
If he gets lucky enough to throw 3 touchdown passes against them.
See, I mean, I feel like with his attitude, the way he is acting, every game is going to get infinitely more difficult.
He's putting a target on his back,
Big
and he's
time.
painting it brighter and
Big
brighter
time.
every week.
I mean, he couldn't make it any worse. I mean, good thing they're not playing Bulls on defense, because that red jersey somehow keeps getting stretched every game. He keeps talking smack, and it's going to get worse. I mean, it's going to get worse for him, and he's going to get himself hurt. Because eventually guys are just going to take him out.
Enough is going to be enough at some point, and he's going to come across the wrong guy on the wrong Saturday afternoon who's having a bad day.
The funny thing is, I don't think these kids earlier on would have cared about him getting knocked over or hurt, but now I don't think they're no remorse.
No.
And you know what? As a fan, I'm not gonna have any remorse either.
To me, he has put himself in that situation by acting the way that he has.
He needs to read up on Red Grange and learn what it means to be a good athlete and a good man,
right?
And how to play this game the right way.
Right.
Until he does that, he's gonna get hurt. So, should be interesting.
Definitely.
We'll see what happens this week.
Yeah, exciting week. Got the U in the Florida. And
should be a big game.
It's a big weekend.
And then the NFL gets kicked off tonight with the Ravens at the at Broncos. So
let me take a quick second to wish my mother a very special birthday. I'm not going to say how old she is.
Happy birthday.
If I had 2 quarters, we would have something in common.
That's mean. That's so mean.
For us here at the Spo-Ad cast, I'm Trevor Graham.
I'm Jason Fowler. You can check us out on Facebook, our YouTube channel, and Twitter.
Have a good weekend.
Cheers.
This is Spo-Ad Cast. Spo-Ad Cast is the official podcast of the St. Thomas University Sports Administration Program.
We are your inside look into the sports industry.
Want to get a job in sports?
Yeah.
Listen to
Spo-Ad Cast.